All right, everyone. So for those of you that just popped in, we'll do a couple questions and then we'll just go into meditation. We're going to end the class much earlier than usual today. We'll only go for an hour and a half from now. So, of course, if you want to continue and do your long sit, you're more than welcome to. So. All right. So you could either turn on your mic or just post it in the chat section.
Maybe ask a
Sometimes
question.
yeah, you can ask a question, sure.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of retreat, or I don't have any retreat experience. I've got two little kids, so I can't really do retreats, but so I don't have that much experience with long sits, but I've been trying this week to kind of do a long sits at home. So I did about 10 hours yesterday. And
Great.
it's sort of, yeah. So it's hard. So it's like feels like the first few hours are productive, but then it gets very yeah, I get very sleepy, and so there's a lot of kind of nodding, and but then I've also noticed, so that's I guess my main struggle. I feel a lot of sleepiness. And then I felt like a lot of emotional stuff come up, which was kind of surprising. So it's like feel sad, like I'm not it's like the meditation is really making me, it's bringing up stuff, so I don't know. I don't really know what's normal and what's what's supposed to happen, but anyway, that's my experience.
Yeah, meditation is very can be very purifying. So when you do long periods of sitting like that, or even just it can just come up if your practice becomes more regular and consistent, that you go through a period where the stored pain in the body and in the subconscious will begin to emerge. It's kind of like meditation is very pure, clean water, and you're just pouring it on these hot coals. And those hot coals are all the difficulties you've had, and your previous history and the traumas. So doing meditation right doesn't necessarily mean that it always feels good. You're supposed to go through those difficult periods. So you'll notice that every time you have an ascending arc in your practice and everything is going quite well, or your mindfulness is pretty continuous, there's not much wandering, you're feeling very happy, don't be surprised if the next day like all of this stuff comes up. So it's part of the learning process in meditation. So it's totally normal. Like, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It's just that especially when you do longer sits like that or more intensive periods, your whole system is not used to that much stillness, that much sitting still, that much your state in meditation is very different than your waking normal state, or your life and the various activities that you have to do and engage in at work. Your sitting practice is a completely different mode. So when you're in this different mode, there's going to be side effects from doing that. So just, yeah, it's not a problem. The best advice though for when difficulties start coming up as a result of your practice is to really do your best to feel deeply and relax into those emotions and into that material that's coming up. Like, give it permission to be there, because there may be a tendency to be like, you want to push that away, you don't want to go there, you want to fight with it, and that will tend to exacerbate it. Like it'll make it worse. So you give it permission to exist, and you just see what happens next. Yeah, just continue with the practice, or continue with being aware, and with the continuity of your awareness. And yeah, and that's that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll try that. Thanks. And now and the sleepiness is, I think I heard you say, the first 8 hours or something is the roughest, and then it's supposed to get better. I don't think I broke through though, but the sleepiness also sounds like it's kind of a normal thing.
The sleepiness is more normal when you do long sits like that, because your body's not moving for long periods of time. So yeah, that could come up. For me, I think when I did it, I started at 6 a.m. So I was knocked out. I think I was knocked out the first like 3 hours or something. So but sleepiness, you just deal with it the best that you can. Sometimes you just do need a rest more. And then when you return to the practice, it can proceed. Because there's this thing with like you can fight sleepiness, and then you're just like in this war against getting sleepy and against the drowsiness, and you could fight that like for hours and hours and hours, and it would have been solved if you just took a nap for 15 minutes. Right.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But no, I wanted to slug it out, and I wasted 3 hours. So instead of going there, just like fall asleep, wake up, and then proceed. And you can alternate sitting with walking as well, and that will reduce sleepiness. So like the way to really break through sleepiness, if it's not a lack of sleep, then it's just a hindrance. So the way to deal with it is alternate with walking, walk faster, even you can do heavy exercise, and that will get the blood into your brain, and it can dispel the sleepiness. Yeah. How was the 24-hour sit for everyone? I forgot to ask. Nico, what was it like for you?
Oh, it was great. I did around, I think, 11 sits with breaks. Longest I sat was maybe for 2 hours. Um,
Oh, I think she froze, right? Yeah. You were frozen, Nika. Could you say that again?
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was saying, where did I stop? Um, yeah, so lots of stillness. Um, I did, my mind really slowed down towards the next day and towards the end. Um, yeah, it was amazing. I wouldn't say there was anything profound, but I did lots of different practices, mainly mod 2 and mod 3, um, but also mantra recitation, then walking meditation. Um, yeah. Yeah, we should do it again. It was great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's a lot of fun, and it's very unique to do something with the least amount of deviation possible for 24 hours, you know. So it's possible if you prepare yourself up in advance, like a couple days up in advance, you start sitting more, that when the 24-hour, by the time the 24-hour comes along, your mindfulness and your awareness is going to be much more continuous. Yeah, like like a very great deepening as possible, especially after like um I found that generally after the sleepiness goes away, however long that takes, it's just like smooth sailing from there. But it's because I've done this many times, and I've done retreats and everything. So So it's normal that if you just try this like out of nowhere, you've never done a long retreat, you've never done like a whole weekend of practice, that like when you try for the first time, your mind is just like assailed by stuff and it's difficult. But that's like, that is of course what happened to me when I first started trying this, right? Like the first time I did a retreat, it was 90 days and it was just pure hell. So, I had a good 2 weeks, and then after those 2 weeks, from the end of the second week to the end of the 90th day, pure, just not good. But I wasn't following instructions and I was pretty young. So my mind wasn't as psychologically mature at the time. I think I was like 19. So like the teacher, the teaching monks are like, let go, relax, stop, chill out, surrender. And I just kept like pushing, alternating, rotating techniques every week. It doesn't work. If you want success, or you want to really deepen the meditation or deepen your noticing, like just follow instructions. Just do what I say. Because if you do a week retreat and then you do one different method every single day, and you're not really adept at any of those methods, it's kind of like you're digging holes in the ground for water, and you dig like 5 feet deep, but the water is actually 20 feet deep. And then you dig another hole, you dig another 5 feet, but the water's still 20 feet deep. Dig another hole, repeat again. If you had just stayed on the first hole for 4 days, you would have hit water. So it's like that. It's okay to alternate techniques and to do different practices. Like, especially in the Tibetan tradition, they're very used to doing mantra, then doing prostrations, and then doing different pujas, and they do that on rotating schedules. But that works because there's an actual schedule, there's an actual rotation, there's structure to that variety. If there's no structure to your variety, then you'll find that you're spinning your wheels and getting frustrated. Yeah. Like, just one of the, if I could go back in time and talk to my younger meditator self, I would tell him, just because a practice seems to be not working doesn't mean that it's not working. Like, it's just you're still within the territory of the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, restlessness, sleepiness, or muddiness of mind, doubt. I can't believe I'm forgetting one of these hindrances. Anger, yeah, or irritation. So when the initial beginning practitioner is still very much so dealing with all of these in meditation. So you have to work through that territory, relax through that territory, let go, until your continuity of mindfulness and the presence becomes more so the case than the hindrances. If your presence is super strong, super continuous, super immediate, it's difficult for the hindrances to actually like hijack your whole meditation practice. But if those factors are not mature, then when you have memories of irritation or memories of anger, anything that really triggers you can, it can send, like, your mind could go in that direction for several hours and not be able to relax out of that and return to more continuous awareness. So these are the challenges that meditators are going to have if they're not meditating every day, or if their practice isn't particularly consistent, or if they're still pretty new. If you're still pretty new, that means you're going to have more doubt than someone who's been doing it for 14 years like me, more restlessness, more sleepiness, more sensual desire, more of the afflictions that continue to take you out of being aware. So that just comes with the territory. That doesn't mean that it takes years to get through it. It doesn't. You know, you can, the hindrances are something that you may need to work through in each meditation session, or in different seasons of your practice, you'll have particular hindrances that are more problematic than others. So for example, when I first began, I was young, I was like 18, 19. My main primary hindrance was sensual desire or sexual desire. That, I mean, like all the other hindrances, doubt, restlessness, anger, sleepiness, like those were not problems. I mean, those are like not even on the map. It was just this one hindrance torturing me for years. So, and it was because, you know, I didn't deal with that particular meditation obstacle well, or like I didn't apply the specific antidotes. I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and that doesn't help. So there's ways to work with each one. Whatever your particular hindrance is in meditation, there's a way to work with it. And in previous classes, I've explained the whole 6R process. Recognizing that your mind has wandered, relaxing the physiology after the moment of mind wandering, once your mindfulness returns, smiling, returning to the meditation object, and then staying with it for as long as your awareness stays with it for. Yeah, so I think there's a particular there must be a particular recording of that, but if anyone's interested in that particular thing, like how to deal with a lot of mind wandering, I can send you the monk who created that process explaining how it works. So it's counterintuitive in the sense that usually with meditation, to make your mindfulness stronger, you just keep bringing the mind back to the object again and again and again until it finally like stays. But the only caveat with that approach is that if your mind wanders to something of irritation, or let's say thoughts or memories of sensual desire, and that keeps taking your awareness off the meditation object out of presence, if you keep pulling it back or just tug it back, you can actually have this effect of like bringing that particular affliction or bringing that particular hindrance into the meditation, like making it more prominent than it actually needs to be. So the way to work with that is to actually let your distractions be there, like to let the hindrances be there. If the irritation comes up, if the resistance comes up, if anger comes up, you give that anger, you give that resistance permission to exist. You just say, okay, you're here, I see you. You don't actually say those words, but you acknowledge and you just let it be there. And then you relax. And then you just continue with whatever mode you're doing, whatever practice that you're doing. So, but that's not the usual approach. The usual approach is when your mind wanders, just bring it back. When your mind wanders, just become aware again and be aware for as long as you can. But this one additional step of just letting the distraction be there, letting whatever your mind has wandered to be there, it diffuses a massive amount of tension. Because there's this whole thing of like your mind keeps wandering to that, but you're trying to be aware, but it keeps going to that. But you're trying to be aware, but it keeps going to that. And now you're getting frustrated. So now that's added into the soup. And like this whole thing gets circumvented by just letting it be there. When you allow that distraction to be there, your mind is already aware again. So there's really only two modes in meditation and in general. There's the mind when it's aware, and then the mind when it's unaware. So let's look at a standard meditation session. Let's say you're practicing mindfulness of the body. So you're aware of the body breathing, and you're having moments of being aware. So let's say, for example, we're all aware right now. We can just do this together. Now we are present. Yeah. Now we're aware. 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, we weren't aware. Now we're aware. So by being aware, I mean there's the actual sense of being present, the actual sense of being mindful, aware. This will last probably a few more seconds before our attention lapses or our mind wanders. Maybe it'll last a minute or two. And if you're a very good meditator or you don't have ADHD, maybe it'll just naturally last quite a while. But so we're being aware, we're noticing the breath. And then something happens and our attention, our mind wanders. So it goes into unawareness. Unawareness arises. The moment of the arising of unawareness is very similar to the moment of falling asleep. You never actually see the moment you fall asleep. None, if you remembered the moment that you fell asleep, then you would have the experience of the physical body falling asleep while your consciousness remained awake. And that is not what happens for most people when they fall asleep. When you falling asleep is literally the absence of consciousness. So your consciousness turns off, you don't remember anything. And then when you wake up in the morning, you have these memories of dreams. So you never see the moment that you fall asleep, in the same way that you never see a moment of mind wandering or a moment of the arising of unawareness. Because by definition, it's the absence of awareness. It's the absence of that seeing. That's how it happens. Or that's what's happening. So unawareness arises, and then boom, you're aware again, and you remember, hey, I'm supposed to be meditating. These are the only two modes that exist in a meditation session. So in the beginning, unawareness and mind wandering may characterize most of your sit. As your mind settles, as things calm down, as the hindrances fall to the wayside, you have more moments of mind being aware. Eventually, it may get to the point, or when your mindfulness is really continuous and this power is beginning to arise in the practice, you find that your mind or your attention is only lapsing for a few seconds or a couple seconds at a time. And then boom, the aware mode becomes primary. So you have this alternation in a sitting session. What's interesting is that unawareness arises spontaneously. And then you becoming aware again arises spontaneously. Both of these moments arise spontaneously. They both happen on their own. The only part where you're involved, or you, which means intention, memory, perception, your normal sense of self, the only place where intention is being exercised is when you're aware, when you're mindful. Because in those moments of mind wandering, there's no way to exercise intentions. You're like in some fantasy until your mindfulness returns and you're like, oh, okay. My mind has wandered from the meditation object. Begin to notice the breath again, or notice whatever it is again. So one of the things, one of the pointers is that once you're past the 5 hindrances and there's not as much wandering that's happening, you can actually take your hands off the wheel and know that this alternation between awareness and unawareness will happen on its own. And by fully pulling the fuel of the mind, this like reaching, intending, needing, wanting, by actually surrendering that, you find that the mind has more continuity and being aware naturally. Sure, there may be a lapse, or there may be temporary arising of a distraction or a fantasy, but you'll find that for the most part, once the five hindrances have been passed and you're able to really relax and let go, if you were to add up the number of moments in a given hour of one of those sessions, you'd find that you'd be aware like 80% of the time once the five hindrances have been passed. Once the sleepiness has been passed, once the sensual desire has been passed, once the irritation, frustration has been passed, once the doubt has been passed, much, much, much more continuity. So, yeah. So that's this whole discussion in regards to meditation and the hindrances. So I want to bring it back to like the absolute immediacy perspective. So we have this idea that we have to get into meditation. Like we sit down, but even though we started the meditation session, it doesn't really begin until we're past the five hindrances or until things start to settle. If possible, I want you to really like abandon that idea because it's not that suddenly when you're now more aware in meditation that reality just appeared. That's not what happened. Like from the right now, this is reality. When you sit down for meditation, that's reality. When your mind's wandering, that's reality. When your mind has stopped wandering, that's reality. So experience is continuously immediate all the time. Immediacy is always the case. Your doubt is immediate. Your sleepiness is immediate. Your anger is immediate. Your sensual desire is immediate. Your frustration is immediate. The mind wandering is immediate. The unawareness is immediate. The awareness is immediate. The body is immediate. Thoughts are immediate. Everything's immediate. So the meditation doesn't start when the mind gets still. We could say, or we could consider that it begins, quote, when we shift from not meditating to, okay, now we're going to meditate. But really, meditation is happening all the time in the sense that you're never experiencing anything outside consciousness. You're never experiencing anything outside reality. And that this is always immediate, is always occurring, it's always constant. It's never broken, it's never interrupted. So meditation techniques like mindfulness of breathing, different mantras or visualization practices, they're used, or their purpose is to help the mind enter a state of quietude. So then from that quietude, the noticing, the vividness of this immediacy is more palpable. It's less, you're less prone to be distracted from it. You're less prone to be wandering from it. And then you have specific factors like bliss, happiness, equanimity, tranquility that all arise from using these meditation practices that help with noticing the presence of reality and presence of experience. You begin to have the sense that everything that's arising is God, but that everything that's arising is awake. That becomes a direct cognition for you, it's not something that just I said or whoever said it. It's through the immediacy of experience that those cognitions or those shifts begin to open up, even if it's just temporarily. So notice how those never happen in mind wandering. Your mind never wanders into unity consciousness, right? Never wanders into the collapse of duality. It never wanders into no self. Like, that's not what happens. All of those are what open in the mode of the mind being aware. But whether the mind is aware or whether the mind is unaware, both are immediate. Samsara is immediate, nirvana is immediate. Presence of a me is immediate. Absence of a me is immediate. So immediacy is really the gate here. And it is continuously the case. So there's no path to immediacy. There's no path to reality. There's no path to this because it's already this. So sure, there's path to samadhi, like that's a state that you need to enter. There's path to cessation, that's another special state. But there's no path to reality because every path is reality. There's no path to immediacy, or there's no way to immediacy because every way that has existed, could exist, or will exist is immediate. So you're always in the citadel of immediacy. This is always the case. There's one question. Yeah, that's fine. You yes, Maggie, you can ask me over email. There's a thing too, like if I'm using the word aware and like that is not really making sense, let's try to unpack that or look at that in our session here today. If after this it still doesn't make sense, you can email me and we can just talk over Zoom or something, and I can help you point this out. I can help point this out for you. This was so when I first met Namkhai Norbu, or when you first learn Dzogchen or Mahamudra or Chan, Vedanta does the same thing. The first thing that occurs is the pointing out instructions. So some of you already have a sense of this. You've been meditating for a long time. You know what is meant by awareness. Like, you understand that. It's that which is experiencing thought, that which is experiencing sound, that which is knowing. It's this awareness that is perceived to be within and initially perceived to be separate from what is arising. So it's this awareness that gets pointed out initially. So when I first met Namkhai Norbu, he explained all of this. It made no sense to me. He's like, he did the pointing out instructions, and then literally I came up to him and asked him afterwards. I was like, hey, nothing happened. Like, something was supposed to happen, right? I mean, like nothing occurred. And then he just started laughing. And he said, yeah, just keep doing the practice. And I saw him again a year later. I was, I think, 20 at the time. And I came up to him after the transmission and whatever, because you could ask him questions personally. So then I went up to him and I said, hey, how do I realize the nature of mind? And he just paused. And he didn't move. And he said, how do you feel now? And I said, I feel present. And he said, now relax. And I said, that's it? And he said, yeah, that's it. So again, I had no idea what he was saying. But 7 years later, when I read Ramana's moksha, or liberation is to know that you were never born, I realized what he was pointing at. So to be present and to relax, that was his way of saying be aware and relax. Be noticing, be in this this knowing. I don't mean knowing like the same way you'd know some intellectual knowledge or something that you read. I mean the actual sense of recognizing, hearing. It's just this bare knowing, this bare awareness. The whole point of self-inquiry, of doing mode 2, of asking yourself, what is it that hears, is to look inward and find that it's your mind that is hearing. It's awareness that is hearing. This is the initial understanding of this. Whatever is immediately the case is what is the case, right? Don't take what I've said like awareness and sound are the same thing. Like that, that may not be the case for you. It may be the case that you have a clear, distinct sense that awareness is one thing and sound is another. That's fine. You let this awareness, this being aware, really become the container of your practice. So we can do it again. Now let's be aware again. Okay. So now we're aware again. And while being aware right now, let's stop trying to be aware. So release any effort to continue this awareness forward in time. Just drop it. So you're aware, but you're not trying to be aware. Because I said the word aware, now we're aware, right? But you can see how you can have intention with the awareness, and then the awareness also be the case without intention. So awareness is not an intention-dependent phenomena. Like, you don't have to intend for it to continue. You can, and that's what we do in meditation. We intend to notice from one moment to the next, but it's not limited to it. One moment. Yep. Okay. So with the mode 2, having this recognition of awareness itself, you're just continuing in that and continuing in the immediacy of awareness. And that's really the essence of that whole practice. Just looking at awareness, turning attention at that awareness. And by this awareness, I mean the awakeness of it. So some people call it awake awareness. So I think Locke Kelly uses that term. Yeah, this awake awareness. So we can all do this right now. Close your eyes and sense for your awareness internally. So most of us will have the sense that the awareness may be somewhere in the body, or we have the sense that it's behind the eyes. That may not be the case for you, but just close your eyes and look, become aware of awareness. And notice the immediacy, the awakeness of awareness as well. Use a light attention, a light turning inward, light looking inward. Don't use any force here, just look.
This is your final call.
So sensing, noticing the awakeness of awareness, wherever that seems to be in your field of experience. You know, the sense of witnessing, the sense of watching. Notice the awakeness of that. Or even you, if the most immediate thing in your field of experience is your sense of you, I want you to notice the presence of your sense of you, of your I. Be aware. Sense the awakeness of that internal space of I or of awareness. Whatever is most fundamental in your present experience now. What is it that is watching? What is it that is hearing? So sense the aliveness of awareness, the presence of awareness, the awakeness of it. And now open your eyes and let seeing be seeing. So let the entirety of your visual field just be. Experience the immediacy of sight, the aliveness, the awakeness of sight.
This is the final call for Turkish Airlines flight TK102 Istanbul. We urgently ask all.
Continue, let seeing be seeing. Relax. Again, sensing the awakeness of the visual field. So sensing the presence of the visual field, close your eyes again. And now sense the awakeness, the presence of awareness again. That internal sense of a witness or a witnessing if it's there. Sensing the presence, the awakeness of it. Open your eyes again. Notice the presence, the awakeness of the visual field. Immediacy of the visual field. Awakeness of seeing. And now ask yourself, is the awakeness of seeing any different than the awakeness of that awareness internally? Is there any difference between the awakeness of what you're seeing and the awakeness of witnessing? Open your eyes, hold up your hands, and sense the presence of the sensations of your hands. So feel your hands, feel the immediacy of the hands. Notice the awakeness, the aliveness of the hands. Ask yourself, can you separate consciousness from these hand sensations? Can you separate your awareness from these hand sensations? Can you separate awakeness from these hand sensations? So you can put your hands down and just notice letting the visual field be the visual field again. Presence, awakeness of the visual field. Feel the entirety of the body and notice the aliveness, the presence, the immediacy of the body. And you can close your eyes or open them or keep them open. It's up to you. Notice the immediacy of your thoughts. So the immediacy of mental pictures. See if you could separate awareness, awakeness from mental pictures. Is it really the case that awareness ends and those pictures begin? Or is it the case that they're inseparable? Now, don't try anything in particular. Release any intending and just allow your whole field of experience to be exactly as it is. So you're not trying to do anything anymore. You're not trying to meditate. You're not even trying to be aware. Just keep your body still. Let your body breathe naturally. And now release any trying, any intending. Drop everything. Aware, awake. Just stop. All right, so open your eyes. Immediacy again. So more and more, you'll notice that more and more you'll notice immediacy. Immediacy of sound, immediacy of sight, immediacy of thought, immediacy of feeling. Wherever attention moves, whatever it moves to is immediate. Whatever it moves to is not. Outside consciousness, outside reality, outside experience. So when we're thinking of getting into meditation, right? You sit down, that's immediate. You start to get still, that's immediate. You get still, that's immediate. You emerge out of stillness, that's immediate. Now your mind's all over the place and you're frustrated, that's also immediate. So another word for this notion of immediacy is being in the now. But the word being in the now is generally with like its relationship to the past or its relationship to the future. But notice how the now or immediacy always being the case doesn't really have an opposite. I mean, we could say that its opposite is the absence of experience. But besides that, like, and from what I found, the absence of experience is just the absence of recollection. It's not actually the absence of consciousness or experience. But reality, experience, this, because it's always the case, because it's uninterrupted, because it's never obstructed, because it never stops, reality doesn't have an opposite. At least that we know of experientially. So this is really the yoga, or this is really the practice, as more orientation to the field itself, as more orientation to the immediacy of the field itself. It becomes clear and it becomes apparent that your personality narrative is a stream of data or a stream of processes within this experiential field. In the same way that seeing is a phenomena in this experiential field, hearing is a phenomena in this experiential field, tasting is a phenomena in this experiential field, thinking, intending, and attention are also phenomena within this experiential field. When that becomes very clear, the solidity of that me, that is the combination of those factors, begins to unravel, begins to unwind. Yeah, it's because we're locked into the narrative, because we're locked into the personality structure, and we're locked into identification with the body, that the entirety of the field is not taken into account. The entirety of the field, the awakeness of it, the immediacy of it is not recognized. But when it becomes apparent that your thoughts and your feelings are just as awake as this object I'm looking at, it becomes harder and harder and harder to take your own thoughts and desires as seriously as you used to. Because you see that there's just this river of happening. And that the so-called me, the so-called self that it is suffering and moving through time, apparently, is really just a set of characteristics within that river, within this field. We label it that. And due to attachment based on those designations and those preconceptions, we suffer. Yeah. With this whole notion of awareness, when we felt or sensed the awareness, many of us may have felt that the awareness was actually back here behind their eyes. Like their awareness or their me is somewhere back here. But then I asked you to sense the awakeness of what was back there, of what is watching, what is witnessing, and then to notice the awakeness of this, the visual field. How is it? Some of you may have had the question, like, how is it possible that the awakeness back here, I'm also experiencing it out here? How is it possible that the awakeness in my hands is the same as the awakeness that I thought was only in my head? It's just a matter of this. No one's ever asked you to notice that. So that's that. So in your practice now, from this point onward, whatever meditation technique you do or try, I mean, every technique is immediate. Whether it's mindfulness of the breath, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feeling, every mode is immediate. Every mode is reality. Every mode is experience. So if you're still interested in the stages, awakening to reality map, for example, whatever, like stage 1 is immediate, stage 2 is immediate, stage 3 is immediate, stage 4 is immediate, stage 5. The stage is just, the only thing that changes with the stages is the locus of identification. That's all that it is. In certain configurations of awakening, there's identification as awareness, identification as the witness. They call it the I am. And it's possible for that I to drop and to just have am. Like just the immediacy of experience and not an I that is being superimposed onto that immediacy. There's no identification with awareness. So there's some differences with this whole unfolding. But however it appears in whatever stage or whatever form or configuration, I mean, all of them are the same immediacy. They're all the same awakeness. They're all the same presencing. It's just that presence can be conceived to be something like an I. You often hear some teachers say, I am the presence. Whereas it's just as possible for it to be the case that there's just the presence. No, I am it. So I refers to me or refers to the subject, and am refers to existence. It denotes the existence of a thing. It denotes the existence of that I. So it's possible to just delete the I and just have existence and just have immediacy. But whether the I is present or whether the I is absent, both are reality. So there's nothing that needs to be done about like ending yourself or ending your ego. It's awake just like everything else. Anything you try to do about it only emboldens it. Anything you try to do about it is coming from it. So, just, it's just this. I asked Peter Brown, I told him, because leading up to my first awakening, I went through quite a long period of celibacy. That was part of my initial training. So no sex, no porn, and no masturbation, which for like 24-year-old, 25-year-old was like not easy. So no sex, no porn, no masturbation for a year. That's as long as I could make it work, and then fell off track, and then got back on for another 4 months. And at the end of that second 4-month stint is when I read Ramana, and the whole thing cracked open, and I had the direct recognition of presence, of awakeness, of awareness. And so that whole opening was characterized by, like, I think I pretty much had continuous, unbroken awareness and unity consciousness for 10 days. And so that passed, and then this whole process happened until the collapse of duality a few years later, or anatta, or no self. So I remember asking Peter when he was still alive, I said, hey, so should I do this no-fap? Should I do this no-fap thing? Should I do a stint of celibacy to like make my continuity of noticing stronger? And he said, nothing that you do as a person has any relationship to this state. In other words, nothing that you do as a person, nothing that you do in your practice, no amount of meditation that you do increases or decreases the presence of experience. Experience was always the case before you got into meditation. Experience was the case in the moment of awakening. It was the case after awakening. Experience is not produced. This is not something you need to create. Reality isn't something you have to create. So the meditation, the practicing, the developing of these skills and these factors that I'm telling you about, it's not that work or that practice produces reality. It doesn't produce awakening. What it produces is a greater continuity of your noticing of the awakeness that is already the case. It increases your degree and continuity of noticing of reality, which is already the case, has been the case, will be the case. There's just this. And nothing that you do or don't do as a person affects this. You have a good dream, it's this. Presence of experience is the case in a good dream. You have a bad dream, the presence of experience is the case in the bad dream. You have a bunch of money, presence of experience is the case. You lost all your money, presence of experience is the case. You have fantastic health, presence of experience is the case. You lose your health, presence of experience is the case. You never leave the citadel of immediacy. So I said it before with, in your father's house, there's many rooms, right? You could see each moment in time as like a different room. But fundamentally, the rooms are within the father's house, within experience. And what happens is we go into these rooms of experience or these rooms of life, and identification occurs with whatever's in that room. This body, another life, it was another body. One moment it's this person, another moment it's that person. But these are all happening within experience. These are all happening within reality. They're not apart from reality, from consciousness. And what is a house anyway? What is a house? A house is just rooms. When you look for presence, you only find experience. When you look for awareness, you only find what appears. Why? Because they're the same thing. And it's just that with this in your father's house, there's many rooms analogy. Everywhere you went, everything you did, everywhere you go, everything you want is experience, is within experience. Everything that you did, everything that happened, you go back in time, you remember when you were a 5-year-old girl, you remember your first memory, that was within experience, that was within reality. At every single moment on the timeline leading up to the present, all experience, all reality, all awake. You even go layers deeper into what I talk about in higher self yoga. Astral projection, past life knowledge, deity consciousness, all of that is within experience. All of that is reality. They're not reality 2.0. You never get reality 2.0. You never even get reality 1.1. You just get reality. That's the case. You ask the question, what is reality? It's whatever the constituents of experience are. That's all that you know reality to be. So in the waking state, this reality experience is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. The presence or the absence of intention. Attention. The constituents of the experience field, of the experiential field, are reality. In the same way that the Father's house is none other than the rooms which comprise that house. Can't have a house without rooms, right? I mean, even if there were no walls, it would just be one big room. That's the case. So let me see, where are we on time? Oh my God, Lord, we're at 3%. Hold on. About to save the day right now. Oh no. Left my phone charger in my checked luggage. Damn it. I had the battery pack and everything. Look, I was actually prepared. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm gonna see if this is gonna work, but if not, then we may have to end class 10 minutes earlier than we thought. If there's any questions, ask them now or forever hold your peace. No. Oh, so close. Why? You know, one day, one of these times, like in samsara, I'm gonna choose an incarnation that like has this thing called preparedness and attention to detail. I think that's what's next on the Rolodex. So yeah, sorry everyone. This phone's on 3%. It's gonna die. So close. All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and we'll see all of you on Sunday or next Wednesday. And thanks for tuning in, everyone.